Welcome to Living Full, my gutless journey. Today I'm going to talk about my experience so far and how I got here. I was writing down everything that happened to me in my life medically, and the list is long. So currently, I have my whole colon taken out, my rectum taken out, my anus taken out because of colorectal cancer. I'm now in the healing stages, but I want to discuss how I got here. So in high school, maybe when I was 15 or 16, I started getting symptoms of ulcerative colitis. The left side of my colon, it started to hurt whenever I had to go number two, and blood will come out. A significant amount sometimes mucus, sometimes both. And I was in school. I remember one experience in school. I was sitting next to my friend in history class, and my colon started to hurt, and we were talking, and she looked at me and realized, she said, the look on my face just changed. Like, I don't know, like the life left my body. It was just hurting so much. We were talking like la 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 la. I can't even imagine how I looked, but I raised my hand and told the teacher that I had to go to the bathroom, and I went to the bathroom for longer than a normal person. I was just in there. It was hurting. So I told my parents about it, and I went to my doctor, and he did a sigmoidoscopy. So that's like he stuck a little camera up my booty hole. It's like a little tube thingy with a camera on the bottom. And he said that there was some inflammation in there, some mucus, blood. And he referred me to a GI doctor. And from there, I got a colonoscopy that confirmed that I had sigmoid ulcerative colitis. So that's colitis mostly on my left side. I've never had any problems with the rest of my colon. It's just my left side of my colon and my rectum and my anus. So that's where my colitis is. If you don't know what ulcerative colitis is, it's under the IBS category, and it causes inflammation in your colon. There has been studies to see what causes it. I think there's a genetic factor, but mostly they don't know why it occurs, why it starts to flare up. They just don't know. Might be environmental, allergies, I don't know. So after I was diagnosed with sigmoid ulcerative colitis, I was put on some medicines to help control it. I had ulcerative colitis since I was 15 or 16, and now I'm 40. And I don't have ulcerative colitis anymore because I don't have a colon, so no ulcerative colitis right now. So over that period of time, I did regular colonoscopies, I was on medicines regularly. And I remember one time, maybe it was like 10 years ago, yeah, I had a colonoscopy, and they found some polyps in there, and they took a biopsy of some of them, and my doctor told me that one of them was cancerous, but he removed it. So thinking back on that experience, I kind of knew that if they didn't catch my polyps early and removed them, I would get cancer. Like that was just in my head, unfortunately. So I did regular colonoscopies. After that, they didn't really find any polyps. So fast forward to 2024 in the springtime, I had a colonoscopy, and right after the colonoscopy, my doctor came out to talk to me. He was like, "We found a growth that's attached to one of your hemorrhoids in your anus." And I was like, "What? Come again?" he was like smiling, like trying to keep me not from overreacting. But yes, he did say that, but he said he took a biopsy of the growth and that he will call me later and tell me what the pathology report stated. But I kind of knew that it was cancerous because based on my previous experience of my polyp being cancerous, I was like, this has to be too. But I was so confused because I got regular colonoscopies. Maybe this last time I waited maybe 2 years to get a colonoscopy. And right before this last colonoscopy, they said nothing was there, no lumps, my colon looked fine. And then 2 years after that, they found a growth. Okay, so from that colonoscopy with the growth, I was able to go in to see my doctor. My doctor said there was a walnut-sized tumor that's attached to one of my hemorrhoids, and he said that it was cancerous. And I saw it on my phone on my MyChart page and read all about it. And after that, I told my family about it, and I was like, let's get this ball rolling. What do I have to do to defeat this cancer? Oh, before that was happening, before he even told me that I had cancer, before I even got the colonoscopy, maybe a few months before, I was struggling with hemorrhoids, and I would see blood in my stools. But I was like, this doesn't feel like a flare-up. But there's blood in my stool, so it has to be hemorrhoids. I feel like I hear that all the time when I watch colorectal experience stories on YouTube. I'm like, oh, this is hemorrhoids. Oh, it will go away. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and I kind of told myself that too. So I was saying, oh, this is just hemorrhoids. And one time I was working really hard at the gym, like pumping the weights. I was trying to work on my back issue and my diastasis recti. So I was like doing squats and craziness. And then that night, there was a lot of blood in my stools that night. And I was like, it's concerning, but again, it's just my hemorrhoids. I don't know how I made that connection, and it just wasn't true. Right before my doctor's appointment, when he was going to tell me about the pathology report, that bleeding happened again. And I rode my bike to my doctor's office. And after I saw him and we talked about it, I went back outside to ride home, and I got so lightheaded, I could not ride my bike. So I kind of pushed my bike back to go in to see the doctor. And when I got into the waiting room, I fainted. They're like, what the hell is going on? And yeah, I was bleeding that much that I became lightheaded, and I was definitely anemic. After that, my GI doctor connected me with the best medical team ever, and he actually said he was gonna hook me up. So I met with my doctors pretty much like a week after getting my diagnosis. So they told me the plan. I would get radiation, chemotherapy, and surgery to remove my entire colon, a proctectomy. So radiation was going to begin that summer. But before I got my radiation, they told me that I can lift up my ovaries through a procedure. It's called ovarian transposition. So I can get my ovaries out of the way of the radiation beam, so I can decrease my likelihood of getting menopause, early menopause. So I was like, yeah, let's do that. So before my radiation in that summer of 2024, like 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before, I don't know, I got my ovarian transposition. And that wasn't that bad. I mean, I was really sore after, but I healed pretty quickly. So radiation began in July, mid-July, and it went for 6 weeks. And it was pretty easy during radiation. And the hardest part was making sure that my bladder was full. They said it's best to have your bladder full to like push your organs out of the way so they don't get radiated. And I had to hold my pee, I had to drink a lot of water, I had a train ride, an hour train ride back and forth. So that was really hard. I had to wear the incontinence underwear sometimes because I just couldn't hold it on the way back home because I'm stuck on the train with no bathroom. Yeah, that was hard. But at the end of radiation, I started to get fevers for about like 2 weeks before chemotherapy. They're supposed to give me 2 weeks of rest time between radiation and chemotherapy. And during that rest time, I was having fevers and just so much soreness in my anus, like flames. And I had diarrhea. I was nauseous. So that break time wasn't really a break time. But I was able to take what's it called? Antibiotics, and that cleared me up pretty, like a few days before my chemotherapy appointment. I think the day when I was supposed to get my chemotherapy, I had like a slight fever, but we still went with it anyway. I think that happened. I have to ask my sister, she was there. So my chemotherapy, right before my chemotherapy, I think I had a slight fever. My first chemotherapy session. So my chemotherapy session started September 9th, 2024, and I had to get 8 cycles. So I went from September 9th, 2024 until January 6th, 2025, I believe. And again, that was pretty hard. The hardest part was nausea and no appetite, fatigue, and neuropathy. I did wear like ice packs on my hands and feet. So like they said that helps with the medicine not getting to your fingertips, like the blood flow just like starts to not get there because my hands are frozen and my feet are frozen. Oh, sorry, before this chemotherapy cycles, I had to take oral chemotherapy drugs while I was on radiation, I believe. I forget what that one's called. Yeah, I'll let you know. So that didn't affect me at all. I had no nausea, nothing with that one. It just felt like I was taking like a placebo. I felt nothing. But with that one, I did get like dark spots on the bottom of my feet. That was the only side effect of that medicine. All right, so back to my cycles. So I had 8 cycles. It got harder and harder each cycle, especially that nausea. If you mess with my food and I can't eat, I suffer. And that was the hardest part. After my chemotherapy session, like that first week after, I had nausea, no appetite, and I was tired a lot. Naps were definitely necessary every single day. But so between each cycle, there's a 2-week break. So that first week, terrible. And then that second week, I felt like I was getting back to normal. And then I would get another cycle and go through that same pattern of feeling bad the first week, the second week, feeling all right, until January 6th. So after my last chemotherapy session, I rang the bell. I also rang the bell with radiation, which was exciting. I could put some clips in to show you when I rang the bell for radiation. Ooh, that's loud. And when I rang the bell for finishing chemotherapy. Yay! After my last chemotherapy session, I was given a month to recover before my proctectomy surgery. So my last chemotherapy was January 6th, like I said, and my proctectomy surgery was February 6th. So it was like exactly a month after. So on February 6, 2025, I got my proctectomy surgery to remove my colon, to remove my rectum, and to remove my anus. That sounds crazy, but that's what I had to do to fight this cancer. I was like, yes. And I wouldn't have ulcerative colitis anymore. So that sounded like a sweet deal. So that surgery day didn't go smoothly. There were some complications. So they were able to take out my colon, rectum, anus. But I started bleeding in my pelvic area, and I had to get blood transfusions, and they did not know where the bleeding was coming from. My sister said she was in the waiting room for hours, even though the doctor came out. Well, the front desk told her that it was only going to be like 20 more minutes, and it turned into 5 hours plus, I think. That's what she told me. I can't even imagine how she was feeling. I was not aware of anything. So I remember one point waking up and seeing my fiance and my sister, like I was just like a little foggy. I just saw them in the corner of my eye. And I saw the doctor as well. And I was like, I'm so happy right now. I remember saying that. I was like, yes, I'm so happy to be awake and knowing that I have no more colon. And after that, I don't really know what happened. And after all this happened, I went in there on a Thursday, and I didn't really wake up until like Friday sometime. Now I was thinking that it was still my surgery day, like a few hours later, when it's really like 24 hours later. So that's kind of funny. But I remember waking up one time and I still had the tube in my throat and in my nose. And my sister was there. She was saying that I was going to go into another surgery because they found the bleeding, but they had to pack me. I don't know why they had to wake me up and pack me and wait to go back in and stop the bleeding. I'm still a little foggy why they did that. Anyway, so I had to wait with that in my mouth, and I couldn't talk, and I was just like doing sign language to my sister basically, which was frustrating, but I was sleeping mostly. I remember asking her what time it was, and she was like, she didn't understand what I was saying. So like I tapped her wrist, and she still didn't really understand what I was saying. And I don't know why I was even asking for the time. I didn't know what was happening, if it was night or day. I don't know why I was asking for the time. But she told me, and I still don't know what time she said. Whatever. And so I had to go back into the operating room for them to stop the bleeding. And after that, I woke up again. And this time, the tube was out of my mouth. The tube was out of my throat, but I still had something in my nose for a while. But I was able to talk, which you will see in another video. So go watch that one. Wow, this is it. It's hard to tell this part of the story because I was groggy. I had pain medicine. I had anesthesia. After they were able to control the bleeding, I was in the hospital for about 3 or 4 days. I had a Foley bag connected to my leg, so I didn't have to go to the bathroom. I just went to the bathroom in bed, into a bag. I had like a little button I can press to administer pain medicine every 6 minutes. Yeah, that was tough. And even after going home after those 3 to 4 days, I made sure I was taking my medicine, because at this time I actually had to wake up to go to the bathroom, like walk to the bathroom, like pretty often, maybe 2 to 3 times a night. And I'm telling you, I felt like I was hit by a truck. I felt like I woke up in the middle of the street. I was like, why am I here? It was pretty bad. So I would go to the bathroom, and before I went back to sleep, I would take some pain medicine so I wouldn't wake up in the morning feeling like I was hit by a truck. No joke. So maybe a week and a half after having my proctectomy surgery, I had to call the ambulance to take me to the hospital. During that experience to the hospital, to the emergency room, I had to go because a hematoma formed in my pelvic area. So again, another bleed out of nowhere. A vessel in my pelvic area started to bleed out of nowhere. I don't know why. My doctor doesn't know why. Again, it was a complication after the surgery. It's all trying to heal down there. It's very sensitive, and yeah. My doctor told me the first bleeding experience right after my surgery, he said that's very rare occurrence, and he hasn't seen it really. And he's the chief of colorectal surgery. And then the second time I bled, he was like, that's very rare too. He has never seen that. Or I don't know if he has, but it's rare again. So I had 2 rare complications happen to me. So I had to stay in the hospital for another 4 to 5 days that time. 3, I don't know. 4 days, I think, to help heal that and make sure bleeding didn't happen again. Oh my gosh. At that point, I was on pain medicine. Like, it was my best friend. After that experience, I was able to go home, but I had to have a Foley bag attached to my leg to urinate because my bladder was being blocked by the hematoma. So I had to wear a Foley bag for about 3 weeks, I think. Because before that, my pathology report said that there was evidence of residual cancer in my anus, in one of the muscles of my anus. So I had to get another surgery to remove that. That was scheduled March 13th, 2025. And I feel like I was recovering from so much, and I couldn't believe I was going to have another surgery. I was like, what's happening? I'm not even recovered from these previous incidences, the previous surgery. But I had to do what I had to do to get this cancer out my body. So I was like, all right. So even though I wasn't completely healed after my proctectomy and the hematoma, March 13th, I went in. I still had the Foley bag connected to my leg. And there was some issues with that Foley bag too. Blood was coming out of there. Sometimes my urine would be red, brown. I was trying to stay hydrated as much as possible. And that March 13th experience, I couldn't eat or drink anything after 11 p.m. the previous night. And when you have a stoma, an ostomy bag, it's very important to stay hydrated. So I tried to drink a lot of water that previous day before my surgery. But still, when I woke up and I got to the hospital to check in for my surgery, they asked for a urine sample. And I went to give them a urine sample, and my whole urine bag. My whole Foley bag was brown. They couldn't really get a urine sample. Or it did go through after a while, but it took a while for them to like see if I was pregnant based on the urine sample. It was crazy. And I was like, am I going to have this surgery today? But I ended up getting it. They still don't know why it was so brown, but my doctor was like, maybe it's because you were dehydrated because you had to fast and not drink before the surgery. So I was like, whatever, let's go. On March 13th, I got a proctectomy, and that was just to remove more of my anus, the muscle that had the cancer cells in it. So that, after that surgery, I was in the hospital for like 5 to 6 days. I think it was 6 days, because my heart rate just stayed like 100 and above. One time it reached 150. So they were monitoring me. For those days. And so I was in there longer than expected. And I was getting lightheaded. I need to make more than one video. I can talk about each one of these experiences in their own video. So that is going to come. And I forgot to mention something else. While I was doing radiation, I had a procedure to put a port in my body so I can get administered the chemotherapy medicine. So it looks like this. I still have it. I need to remove this sometime soon, but they said this is made to last for many years. So after coming home, after the 6 days in the hospital, I was recovering from everything that I've been through. And right now, I do have to wear the incontinence underwear because sometimes it bleeds and there's pus. And I hate switching out gauze, putting gauze in, taping it. It just drives me nuts. So I just bought the incontinence underwear, and that seems to be working to catch the blood and pus from the surgical site, sorry. My proctectomy surgery, I feel like I pretty much healed from that. My stoma's good. My abs are good. It's just my butt cheek muscles and my anus, where my anus used to be, it still really hurts, and I can't sit for very long. I can't stand for very long. I am working from home, and I have to like lie down on the bed and do my work, like lie on my side. That's the only time I really get relief. But I'm not on any pain medicines right now, not even Tylenol. So I can tolerate the pain right now. So 2 days ago on my chart page on my phone, my pathology report from my March 13th surgery came in, and I read that it said no evidence of residual cancer. So I was very ecstatic about that. And the next day, one of the nurse practitioners from my doctor's office, he messaged me confirming this, saying that there's no evidence of residual cancer, down where they did my surgery in my anus. So that is great news. I am cancer-free, and I am a survivor. I can actually say that. Yeah. So right now it's April 2nd. All I have to do right now is have follow-ups with my medical team. So I'm meeting with my oncologist in a week and a half. I know I have to see my surgeon soon to talk about whatever we need to talk about. But at this point, I'm in recovery phase for real. And I better not have any more bleeding or complications. But I feel confident that I am in a good place right now, and I'm just waiting for the summer. I can't wait to be able to go out and do things and not be worried about having a flare up. I have no more ulcerative colitis. I have been cured of my ulcerative colitis. No more ulcerative colitis. And I do not have a tumor anymore. I am cancer free. So I am very thankful for my experience. It was hard, but if I had to do it all over again, I would. I am in a better place, even though it was a bumpy road. Yes, but I am looking forward to living with my stoma, and her name is Robin, and we're gonna have a good life together. It's amazing. Here, I have to kind of back up a little bit. So I got my stoma pouch. So, thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked. Please subscribe and press that like button. Please put comments below saying what's up. If you've been through any of these experiences, I'd like to know about it. So I hope to see you next time. Bye.